So this chapter is going to be all about text. And Text in Painter has some interesting features, but at the same time, it's not the kind of program that you really want to use to lay out an entire book or something like that. Generally speaking, a paragraph or two at most is really what you want to deal with. So what I have here is a text file in the work files for chapter 8 called loremipsum.txt. And what we want to do is we just want to go up here to edit, select all, and then edit copy in whatever program you have for opening up text files. And then we're just going to go ahead and close that. We're going to come over here into Painter with a brand new Painter document. We're going to come over to the toolbar here. We're going to select the text tool, which is this big T. And you're going to see when we click in the document that we're going to create an insertion point. So I'm just going to click, and you can see that we now have an insertion point in the document. You'll also see that we have a brand new text layer that's been created. And we can tell it's a text layer because it has a little T in the icon right on top of the layer. So basically, the idea here is that if we come up to Edit and Paste, we're going to paste in that text. Now you can see here that there is no functionality that allows for us to be able to wrap this. There's no functionality here for a flow. So we have to manually do that. We're going to go ahead and just set the point size down to something lower. I'll say something like 10 to start with. And maybe I'll change the font here. Now, you might have a million different fonts that are completely different from me, but pretty much everyone has Arial, so we'll just start with Arial. And then what I want to do is I just want to click somewhere in my body of text and hit Enter or Return, and that's going to manually insert some carriage returns into this text so that we can basically make it a paragraph. So I'll just go ahead and just find spots where I think it looks good for a carriage return, and you get the point. Now, one other thing, notice how I'm off the screen here. This is a problem, and the reason why is because I can't use the spacebar. If I use the spacebar right now, then I will be, in fact, inserting spaces into that. So what I need to do is change to the grabber, and then push up like so, then come back to the text tool, because if not, then I'm actually introducing spaces into that. So I'm just going to go ahead now and just finish this off, like so. All right, so there's a paragraph, and of course, I could change that and break it up in different ways, whichever way I want to. But the bottom line here is that we want to have this text, and you'll notice that the layer has automatically changed to whatever the beginning part of this text is. So it tells you on the text layer what's actually contained within that text document. Now, we can use the layer adjuster to move this. Now, the thing here is that you have to click on the text itself. If you click on the space between the text, nothing will happen. So you have to make sure you click on the text itself. And now that we're out of the text tool, we can use the spacebar. So I'll just go ahead and move this up like so. Now, here's an interesting thing about the text tool. You do not need to be in the text tool with all these tools that you see up here that are specific to the text tool. You can be in the layer adjuster and still adjust this text. And the way that we do that is we go to Window, then we come all the way down to the bottom here where it says Text. And this is going to launch the text palette. Now, when we go back to the text tool, you'll see that everything that's in this property bar is also in our text palette. So if I come back over here to my layer adjuster, now I can do things like, okay, well, maybe I want to do Arial bold. Now everything is in Arial bold. Now, one of the interesting things is that you cannot select just like one word, like you wouldn't say like a document, and change it to italic. It doesn't work. Everything goes whether one thing is selected or not. So generally speaking, there's really no advantage of being in the text tool when you're trying to edit things, because the text palette will allow you to edit that text regardless of whether or not you have anything in particular selected. Now, of course, you can see that we can align left, which is currently where we're at, align center. And of course, I can move that over here like so, so you can see that. Align right, and again, I'll move that over so you can see that. I tend to prefer to work align center like so. We can change the point size by dragging up and dragging down in the slider, or we can just manually input a point size, and I'll put in something like, say, 18, which is a good point size for the screen. I'll move this over so that we can see this a little bit better. Now, the other thing that we want to do when we're dealing with text is we're going to want to adjust what is known as the tracking, which is really also another way of looking at kerning. So this tracking here is going to adjust the kerning for all of this. Now, right now it's set at 0.00. What that means is it's using the automatic tracking or kerning of the font. And good fonts will have good kerning, and you won't need to adjust this. However, if you feel like you need to space the letters closer or space them further apart, you can easily do that by adjusting the tracking. Now I'm going to go ahead and just set that back to 0 to get the default. The other thing that we can do here is we can adjust what's known as the leading. And the leading is going to adjust the spacing between the different words in our order stack here. By default, it's set for 100. But generally speaking, if you're doing paragraph text, 120 is what you're going to want. So that's just going to be more readable paragraph style text that you would typically see in any kind of page layout program. So generally speaking, just remember that. Now I'll just go ahead and set this down to a smaller font size so that we can see all this on our page here.